welcome back to the Chamber Guy. If you are thinking of setting up a business in Cambodia, this is one video you might want to watch. To be an entrepreneur, you have to face and overcome many challenges. First of all, you have to decide on what business you want to go into. You have to work on your marketing strategy. You might have to raise capital and then work on your cash flow management. You have to hire the right kind of talent, delegate their individual responsibilities, and ensure that time is optimally managed. You also have to focus on the growth of your business and avoid pitfalls. It might be a lonely journey filled with self-doubt, but then again, it doesn't have to be so. Thanks to certain organizations, you don't have to walk alone, and now you have the support that you need. The Young Entrepreneurs Association of Cambodia, or YEAC for short, was launched in September 2009 with just this in mind. Now, let's go and have a chat with Mr. Seang Sopagna, the president of the YEAC, on how they support the young entrepreneurs and future business leaders in Cambodia. Hey guys, I'm here with Mr. Sopagna, the president of Young Entrepreneurs Association of Cambodia. Mr. Sopagna, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. Now, I would just like to ask you to share with us a brief background, your background rather, on where you come from. How did you actually get into the Young Entrepreneurs Association of Cambodia?
Thank you very much. I was born in Kampong Cham province, some 120 kilometers away from the capital, Phnom Penh. I came to Phnom Penh after I finished my high school in 1998. And then I started working from companies to NGOs to international organizations. And then finally, I set up my own business. Then I was still young back then, so I thought that I would have to join an association so that I get to know more people. And I also can have a bridge other young entrepreneurs and team up in order to join in ASEAN as well.
Right. Thanks for the introduction. Now, let's jump into the actual topic. We will like to talk about the Young Entrepreneurs Association of Cambodia. The YEAC, as it's normally called, was set up about 13 years ago. Could you walk us through the early years of the YEAC?
You know, Cambodia was rather new, I think, in the international business and trade, given our tragic history. But in the 1990s, and particularly in the more and more young Cambodians aspire to become entrepreneurs. And they not only started up business in Cambodia, but they also travel overseas in the region and outside of the region. And they wanted to bring the best practices and success story from other countries back to the country to help build the economy. So some of the young entrepreneurs in Cambodia attended various international business missions overseas. We accompany Cambodian dignitaries and high-ranking officials in various meetings. And eventually they thought that why not establish a Young Entrepreneurs Association in Cambodia so that it becomes parallel with those in other countries. Then the leaders had that initiative when they talked with a group of young entrepreneurs in Cambodia. And then when we returned back to the country, we started this small platform as an informal discussion among young entrepreneurs of the same mind. So eventually we evolved to set up a full-fledged association to gather young entrepreneurs across the country. As a result, for the past 13 years, we have 7 chapters now in the country, and we are going to establish more chapters throughout the country. Namely, in each and every province of Cambodia, we'll have a chapter or a branch of Young Entrepreneurs Association of Cambodia.
I'm sorry, the sound just stopped. I believe you're muted.
Hello?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for walking us through the early years of YEAC. Now, let me ask you this. Prior to the pandemic, for 2 decades, Cambodia's economy sustained an average annual growth of 7.7%, if I'm not mistaken. And it was one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Then the pandemic comes into play in 2020. Now, help us to understand, to what extent did COVID-19 and the restrictive measures put into place because of it have affected the economy in Cambodia, as well as the Cambodian business community?
Well, you are not mistaken. Actually, you are absolutely right. Cambodia was one of the fastest growing economies prior to COVID-19 pandemic. But you know, COVID-19 is a perfect storm, right? It affects every country because it is a pandemic. It's a disaster, actually, particularly for young entrepreneurs. We conducted a survey of the impacts of COVID on businesses of our members. As a result, 90% of our members say that their business have been affected, some worse than others. But mostly those who are in hospitality and tourism industry, in food and beverage, and with other business as well. But economy-wise, you know, Cambodia has been relatively resilient because we still sustain stable macro economy. In other words, the government, I think, collects stable incomes from tax and customs incomes. And financial sector has been fairly strong, I believe. We have not felt so much impact, you know, from these two sectors. For that reason, I think it gives an opportunity for small and medium enterprises to bounce back fairly fast in Cambodia, and particularly thanks to the sufficient vaccination program of the government. It was timely. We have to take this opportunity to appreciate them as well for administering sufficient vaccination so that the country was not in restriction. Instead, you know, it was open quite quickly, and as a result, in 2022, we expect to have an economic growth of about 5% compared to minus 3% or so in 2021.
Right. Right. With things being as unpredictable as they are, it's really difficult to say what we are going to be doing next month or even for the next 6 months. But it looks like you're heading in the right direction.
You're right. Yes.
Now, let's talk about the challenges. The challenges faced today by young entrepreneurs in Cambodia. What are the areas in which the YEAC support is sought after?
Well, you know, COVID-19 is really a real wake-up call for businesses, particularly for those who are new in businesses. Before, they tend to do business as usual, but after COVID, business as usual does not have any place anymore. Everybody has to transform. Particularly, they have to embrace and adopt technology. So what we have been seeking for is the new modeling of the business and also the digitalization of the business. In addition to that, some of our members also request us to help facilitate financing, because access to finance is one of the main challenges of small businesses, because in a country like Cambodia, we still need collateral. But given COVID-19, government has introduced a number of tools, you know, to ease this financial burden. For example, they have introduced the Entrepreneurship Development Fund. They introduced the SME Bank, which is a co-financing scheme between the government and financing institution in Cambodia. And they also introduced this credit guarantee schemes, which some of the businesses can actually request or apply for loan without collateral, because the government will place a guarantee to the loan application. So this has been the tools that the government have introduced to help businesses during this period of toughness.
Right. Now, yes, your members do need a lot of support, but let's talk about your members for now. Who exactly are your members, and what criteria do they have to fulfill in order to become a member of the Young Entrepreneurs Association of Cambodia?
That is interesting. First of all, we are not a startup association. We are more a mature business association, even though most of our members are young. But they have to qualify as our members. They have to have a formal, have a business registered with Ministry of Commerce and relevant ministry in which they are operating. And for those who are new, for example, startups, they can be our associate members. Being associate member means they can participate in everything like ordinary members as well, but they are not entitled to vote. And we also have supporting members. Supporting members are those businesses who owned by foreigners and also members of international chambers in Cambodia. So in short, we have three categories of members: the ordinary members, associate member, and supporting members.
Amazing. So you even have support members who are not registered in Cambodia. I think that's actually opening the gateway for new opportunities and new businesses to actually come into Cambodia and create avenues for your members as well to expand. Now, I understand that the YEAC has certain strategies formulated to support your members through the phases of setting up and successfully running their businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about those strategies?
Well, Young Entrepreneur Association, YEAC in Cambodia, is known as probably one of the most active, if not the most active one, because we have got a very clear strategic plan, and we share it with our members, we share it with the government. First of all, we launched our strategic plan 2021-2025, which focus on 6 strategic direction. First, we want to enable our members to access to finance, both equity financing and debt financing. There we work a lot with the banks, Bank Association of Cambodia, as well as Microfinance Association in Cambodia, as well as the government arms responsible for financing. Secondly, we try to we try to help our members to digitalize their business. Thirdly, we help our members to build their skilled labors. We provide training for members and their staff so that they are up to the level that we think that the business should be in that industry, so they become competitive. And fourthly, we try to connect them with international markets and also local markets. We try to find markets for our members. And fifthly, we try to engage with our government as partners. So in any policy development, we contribute our inputs with the government to build various policy in support of businesses and private sector. And last but not least, we try to build a strong and independent association. By independent, I mean we have our own income to operate our businesses. We have our staff qualified to undertake the office. Right.
Mr. Sopagna, thanks so much for that. Now, we have come to the end of part 1. We will come to part 2 shortly. So, Mr. Sopagna, I would like to thank you for your time, and I will speak to you again in part 2.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.